Okay, I'm here. I think this works. Hi, my name is Chris. What's going on? It seems like two people are watching. Yeah. What is the. Okay, hi. Well. Hi. I'm doing a live thing here. The most technically savvy person. I see Dave, and Dave says hi. That's awesome. Hi, Dave. And the idea here is basically, I just wanted to kind of like celebrate the beginning of the thing, of the thing, right? Connor says hi. Benito says hi. Oh my God, there's a lot of highs. I got definitely. Uncle says hey, hello. I'm gonna have to figure out a way to pause this as we go, so that I can answer your questions. But you can ask me some questions about fantasy or whatever you want. I'll hang around for a while. We got like 63 people on here. That's very cool. Connor says wish he wasn't at work. Sam says hello. Jared says hello. Wyo says I'm high. Jackson says what's up, Chris. Steven says, are you sitting on your burrow? I am. I am. Evan says this is a lot like when I FaceTime with my boomer parents. It really is. Makes a good point. Will says work sucks. How are you? Uncle says on the yacht. I am aboard the yacht right now. Okay, so we have a football question, and we'll get right into it. Aaron says, point per reception, point per completion, who's the best quarterback? I mean, it's still probably Mahomes, right? I think it's probably still Mahomes. Tom says, thoughts on all the Antonio Brown nonsense? We'll get going with some fun with Antonio Brown, shall we? Antonio Brown, I lowered him. So I've been way too high on. Well, I've not been way higher than. I'm trying to pause these. I may not be able to pause these questions. I'm going to do my best. Again, boomer parents. I'm not a boomer, but Gen X all the way. X. So the idea here is Antonio Brown. I've had him 4. I've had him 4 at receiver, and I think if you listen to the podcast, I have a podcast. Go listen to the podcast. It's pretty good. Then you'll know I've been higher on him than most people have, because I think it's sort of been a market. I'm definitely a boomer, Gregory says. I don't know how to pause these comments. Hold on, we'll get back to him in a second. I don't seem to have a way. I don't have a way to. All right, I'm going to miss some questions. I'm going to scroll through them. I would love to be able to answer everyone as they go, but I'm using the phone app. I'm a boomer. It's a whole thing. Antonio Brown. So I have an Almanac update coming out tomorrow, Monday, and Antonio Brown is going to be 6 among receivers. I think it's still higher than most folks have him. So I'm trying to kind of have my cake and eat it too. I still want him, but I don't think he's a first-round pick anymore. I think largely this is an angry boomer being mad at a millennial, maybe, except for I'm not a boomer, but we'll go with it for the purposes of this thing. Yeah, Benito, I know it's supposed to stop scrolling if I scroll up on the chat, but it's pausing for a while and then scrolling anyway. Boomericious. I think largely this is Antonio Brown in a cry for help. I think largely this is just him wanting to be the biggest star in the world and have the high Q rating and not really care how he does it. It's all part of going to practice in a balloon ride, and it's all part of freezing your feet. It's all part of fur coats, and it's all the stuff that drives certain people crazy that I just frankly could not care less about, right? What do I care? I don't care. He's unbelievable. He's probably redefined the position. I think I said that in the Almanac. He's the best small player in the history of the league, probably. He's like borderline Hall of Famer at this point, maybe on his way to being in the Hall of Fame. So my feeling generally is I want to ignore it, but I mean, you get to the point where you're at the end of your first round in your fantasy draft, and you're staring at Devontae. For me, I'd be staring at Devontae Adams, Michael Thomas, Antonio Brown. Or insert your receiver. Maybe Odell Beckham hasn't gone yet. Maybe Julio Jones hasn't gone yet. It's basically a tie, right? I think Brown probably gives me a little more week-to-week upside than does Devontae Adams, than does Michael Thomas. Just a tiny bit. And all maybe a little less safety, but basically all the same safety. And in the end, I go, originally I was like, I want him 4 because he's the best receiver in the league. I think he's still the best receiver in the league ability-wise. But I have to admit, I'm sitting there right now, and I've got the possibility. I said this to a friend yesterday, right? I said, I don't want to run the risk that, I think I even wrote this in the Almanac update. I'm quoting myself. It's what I do on the show a lot. I don't want to run the risk that on a Sunday when I really need Antonio Brown, he's taking the day off because he's off in the Antarctic, like looking for fur coats or something. You know, I get it. There's like that little tiny tiebreaker where you go, nah. So I have him 6. I'm probably still going to get him receiver 6 a fair amount. I'm going to get him early second round still, I think. And so I think we're going to look back on this and think it was not really relevant. I think we're going to look back and he's going to have a mighty good season. It's really early. All right. That was a long answer. I got to do shorter answers. Let's see. My finger is now in the shot. Hello, is this thing on? Hello? That was the boomer. That was my parents. My parents are boomers. Let's see. What do you think of Chris Carson this year? Says win. I have him ranked ahead of Rashad Penny. I think he's a less athletically gifted player than Penny, but he's sort of very direct and doesn't have a lot of nonsense. He's very, not a huge guy, but real powerful. And I like him fine as an RB2. I wouldn't say I love him. And if Rashad Penny can't beat him out or can't take a significant portion of that job, it's more a condemnation of Rashad Penny than it is saying that Chris Carson is awesome. Okay, let's see. Silence boomer. Somebody said silence boomer. I'm trying to continue. Okay, here we go. Ian says he's doing a La Liga draft right now. La Liga Lebowski. It's the only way to go. Way to go. Go get it. Doug says, what did you think about Darwin Thompson? I'm not watching the preseason games. I'm sorry. I'll watch week 3. I spent about 25 hours on the Almanac update this weekend. I'm not taking time to look at Darwin Thompson run against gym teachers. Like, it's not going to happen. I'm interested, but yeah, we got a ways to go. Boosted Films says, you don't put weight into the early preseason games, but what about the negative? Isn't bad play in the preseason still bad play? I mean, Austin Eckler fumbled on the goal line, I hear. Well, that wasn't in Los Angeles. It was in Arizona, I guess. But no, I don't think we can learn anything from the preseason. The preseason's a scam. I think, no, I'm just not going to learn anything because I don't know what they're running against. Birdman, is Tony Pollard moving up in your ranks? No. Tony Pollard's like a gadget guy. Jerry Jones can say whatever he wants. Tony Pollard is a really intriguing, nice player to have on your team, but not a starting running back in the NFL. What do we got? Sergio, are you worried about the latest news on Pettis? Is it news, though? Is it news? I guess I always say on the show that if negative stuff comes out, then maybe that matters or whatever, but I don't know. No, I'm not touching Pettis. He's fine. He's fine. He's wide receiver 30 for me. I think it's about where he belongs. Let's see. We got... you are definitely a boomer. I'm not, though. Maybe in spirit. In spirit, a boomer. Jason says, I want to see the Antonio Brown helmet on the latest Almanac update. Benito says, silence boomer. Bryant says, what's with the Miles Boykin jump in the rookie ranks? So that reflects what will be in the Almanac update. I'm sending Boykin up a little bit. And essentially, I want the rookie Dynasty ranks to match the actual Dynasty ranks that are in the Almanac. And the answer is that he seems, there seems to be a reason to consider him among the players that you throw the 14th round dart throw at, if that makes any sense. Like, I gotta retweet that. Well, technically a Gen Xer. Big screen, I'm retweeting that. So like I would say probably a player who gets a little bit of love in camp and who Brett Coleman comes on the show and on the podcast and says he really likes, that person deserves to be ranked 140th or something like that, right? Something where you go, I now can see the logic behind taking the shot very late in your draft as opposed to just being pure waiver wire material. That's where I am with Boykin. I go, I've always recognized what kind of athlete he is, and always recognized that he was very limited at Notre Dame by quarterback play. And let's see what thing, he dominated the Senior Bowl, he crushed the combine. Like, let's see what they think of him in camp. If there's enough buzz in camp around a kid like that, I did the same thing with Keyshawn Johnson, not the one I know, the other Keyshawn Johnson. let's at least include them in the neighborhood of players in the ranks where someone might consider taking them 13th or 14th round. That's sort of where I would be with Boykin and someone like Keyshawn Johnson right now. By the way, you're all watching this. Thank you very much. We're sponsored by DraftKings, and I don't want to make a big deal about that, but I talk about this Almanac thing, right? So I've been updating. The Almanac came out August 1st, comes out August 12th, a new edition, and then another one a week from Friday. So I'm sitting here spending another 20 hours in the stupid thing, updating it, because I don't want you to draft with outdated stuff as people get hurt. Theo Riddick getting hurt today. I just wrote him a profile. I had to take it out. That was not great. But there'll be a link in the description of this video. If you click that link, if you've never had a DraftKings account before, if you start a DraftKings account, make a $5 deposit, they'll get you within 24 hours, they'll get you the Almanac. So the Almanac costs $17. In my mind, that's arbitrage. That's like a $12 value, but that just may be me. I'm a boomer guy with math, not necessarily since I'm such a boomer. But if you're interested in the Almanac and you're like, $17 is too much, then go to that link in the description and you can get it for $5. A minimum deposit of $5. And then play at DraftKings, because DraftKings is great. All right. Enough of me being a shill. Let's see. I don't want to skip any questions here, so I'm headed back. I'm headed way back. I can't get this darn thing to stop the scroll. All right. How do you work this thing? Uncle says, did you put James Washington in the first round because he caught like 2 passes? I didn't. Let's see. Rowan says that I'm boomerlicious. Will says Jacoby Myers first round footy pajama pick. I know. For people who are Gen X and we grew up on TV like in the 90s, Jacoby and Myers was like a personal injury lawsuit infomercial that you'd see all the time, like when you were watching cartoons when you got home from school. So every time I hear Jacoby Myers, and that's true when he was at NC State too, I think of like really, really cheesy, like people being desperately injured. So probably Jacoby Myers is going to have an injury-related handle on the podcast if and when he ever actually makes the team. Sam says, on a scale of 9 to 10, where do you put David Montgomery? He's a 9. I would go no higher than a 9. Connor says, who's a better pick, Chris Godwin or DJ Moore in a half PPR? So they're close for me. I have Moore a little bit higher. I think the Godwin hype is a little out of control. Not to the point where I don't want him, and not to the point where I think he's a bad, even not a terrible. I think if you're taking him where I understand he's going, I haven't really fully dived into ADP yet. That's this week, but Chris Godwin to me is like Pierre Garçon, young Pierre Garçon. To me, that's Chris Godwin. That's my comp for him. So that puts you in the mind of like not big, but not small, not fast but not slow. Strong as hell, really good hands. I really like him as a player. And if he's going to be in the slot, cool. I think he can make hay outside too. I think he's a good player. I think DJ Moore is Steve Smith. So if I'm comparing Steve Smith and Pierre Garçon, I say, oh, well, the guy that reminds me of Smith, maybe I like a little more ability-wise. I think the Godwin argument in people's minds is getting mixed up with this idea that they are convinced that Tampa Bay's offense is going to be amazing, and Bruce Arians is going to throw it 700 times, and Jameis Winston is going to be rescued. And I don't trust Jameis Winston at all, frankly. And I trust Cam Newton right now with half a shoulder more than I trust Jameis Winston. But my argument is hopefully going to be more about the ability of the player. So I don't think it's a total landslide, but I like Moore a little bit more. The scroll won't pause, kids. The scroll will not pause. Is Tony Pollard moving up in the running backs rank? Birdman, not really. Jackson, Damian Williams, or Miles Sanders in Dynasty? Miles Sanders. In Dynasty, Miles Sanders, yeah. Gregory says, last year you said people would be way too high on Derrick Henry because of the last few big games. Still feel the way, same way, or is he going where he's worth it? Well, so I haven't technically dived into ADP yet, and that's really weird for a person who does what I do for a living, obviously. Most people live and die with ADP who do what I do for a living. I'm better than them is what I'm saying. No, I try to be, in the first couple weeks of August, I really try to be true to my own ranks. And I know the moment I start looking at ADP, I know what it feels like. I absolutely feel it. I feel pressure to go, wow, I need to get a little higher on that guy. I look stupid. What if he makes it big? If he makes it big, people are going to point to my rank and say I was stupid. So for example, this is not really an answer about Derrick Henry, but I'll get to it. Dion Lewis, teammate. I know for a fact from the way people have talked on the show, I'm a lot higher than the market on Dion Lewis. So once I start looking at ADP, I'm going to see Dion Lewis, and I'm going to go, oh, wow, people have him 4 rounds after I do. You know what? I should lower him a little bit, because then if he doesn't hit, I don't look so ridiculous. But if I lower him a little bit and he does hit, I still was out in front on him. I still had a better draft position on him than the market did. And frankly, that's cowardly, but it's human nature. I absolutely will start feeling that pressure as soon as I start looking at ADP, which is why I delay it as much as possible. I'm going to have a podcast like midweek, where I finally will have looked all the way into ADP. Second Almanac update is behind me. I will know what the market is much better. So this is the Derrick Henry answer is much more about me saying, just from listening to Josh, listening to other people come on, I'm sure I'm lower. And I don't want him. If people are talking about him as the second or a third round, which is what Josh has said on the show, then I don't want him, because I just don't think he's good enough. I think he's got his points. Obviously, he's not terrible. He's got his points, but I don't think he's good enough to justify that. Okay. I'm going to get to your latest questions. I wish I could get this thing to pause. It does not pause, no matter what I do. Okay. Kieran Shanahan says, I've got a lot of belief in Dante, and I don't think he's there yet. Again, I'm not going to freak out about that. I feel like he's really good. I'm only ranking him 30 or so among receivers, so I'm not suggesting that you waste a top 5 pick on him, right? So I don't think. I'm not freaked out. I think he's awfully good. Steven says, #BoomerPossum, indeed. Sam says, Josh Jacobs, David Montgomery, Miles Sanders. I like him in that order, and I like Jacobs a little bit more. I'd say Montgomery and Sanders. I've boosted in these latest ranks. I've boosted a little bit in the Almanac, and how could you not think that things have gone pretty well for them so far? Just at least like we haven't gotten negative stuff about him, right? It's mostly been, Miles Sanders, the press is like foaming all over themselves. So yeah, that's the order, and I like them all. None of them probably are Saquon Barkley. Let's see. Kevin says, any Almanac update previews you can drop today? Anything left on the cutting room floor? Well, cutting room floor, Theo Riddick gets left on the cutting room floor because I wrote him a profile and then he went and broke his shoulder, so he's out. I had to put Rex Burkhead in there instead at number 80 among running backs. Gross. There'll be changes. There will be changes. There will be running back. A lot of running back reshuffling and a lot of red text updating the profiles. I'm not sure if there's a super. Maybe the super highlight is Antonio Brown going from 4 to 6. As just a total Brown defender, I'm letting the off-field nonsense get to me just a little bit. I still think I'll wind up being higher than the market on him, is my guess, and I still think I'll get him, but I just don't want to spend a first-round pick on him anymore, and that's somewhat cowardly. I think the theme of this is boomer coward. I'm half boomer, half coward, so just #boomer coward. What else we got? Yeah, I'm trying to not skip anybody. Joel says, was the Tarantino movie worth seeing? So I'm not going to ruin anything. I don't want to spoil anything. Yes, it's absolutely worth seeing. I was very much with it until I very much wasn't, is kind of what I'm saying. But you should see it. It's good. Reed Has Penguins says, what do you look for when watching film from young wide receivers and running backs? It's a hard thing to answer sort of off the cuff. It's a lot. But we actually did a series on this channel called Film Don't Lie University with me and Brett Coleman. You can go back to last summer and you can see really specific examples of how we evaluate running backs and wide receivers. It is that kind of thing where if you watch enough film, it's almost like you know it when you see it. It is the Supreme Court definition of pornography, as they say. You sort of know when you're seeing something that looks a little bit different. But what I'm looking for is the vision to string moves together on running back wise, or like a sharpness of cut, that stop foot, go foot thing that we talk about a lot, where the body doesn't have to decelerate in order to make the cut. Sometimes the 2-footed jump cut is less effective than the being able to cut off a 1 foot and go. And with receivers, the biggest thing is route running. The biggest thing you can get on film that you can't get just, sort of looking at stats or even just watching games live is all 22s and watch how people get open, because the best ones, it really becomes obvious. But I would really recommend checking out FDLU if you don't mind. That would help. Okay. Jared says, thoughts on Jared Goff as a late-round quarterback? Yeah, there are just so many late-round quarterbacks. I'm okay with it. If you're going to wait and wait and wait, I'm okay with Goff being the one you land on, to be honest. I think I don't think he's great. I think that I think he's like better Kirk Cousins. He's much more of a system guy, but what a system, and I think he's good enough to take advantage of a really great system. Let's see. I know you're not looking at ADP, but Damian Williams is consistently going mid-second. Is it time to cool on Damian Williams? On this channel, I actually just did a Damian Williams video, so take a look at that. I can tell you exactly where I have him right now. I have him exactly in a standard league. Let's see. I have Damian Williams 30 in a standard league. And I have, this is new, this is online now, I think, but 30 and 28. So I guess I don't want him in the second round. I guess. There you go. But yeah, I think he's a good player. I don't think he's just a guy. I think he's a good player, but it's probably a little too high. If anybody knows how to pause this thing so I don't keep having to do this and continue to scroll. Darth Rivan. Preseason is mostly to allow teams to figure out what their 53-man roster will be. That is true. Preseason is very useful for the teams, not so much for the players. PPR got Cooks, Gurley, Cup. Which would you try to trade one? Which one? I don't think you want to trade Gurley, right? Because you're not going to get the top of his value, right? You're not going to get the best that Gurley could be. You're not going to get that kind of value. So it probably wouldn't be him. I mean, I guess it'd be, you're going to get more for Cooks, I think. You'll get less for Cup. But I would explore either one of those and just see what the offers are. I don't think Gurley's the one you trade right now for exactly that reason. Franchise says Kenyon Drake or Kalen Ballage. Kenyon Drake still by a lot. Zevi says, who's this year's Joe Mixon? I don't know if I have one. I don't know if I have a running back on the list who I like that much. I mean, who I'm out of lockstep yet with the market. I like Nick Chubb a lot, but I don't think I'm out of lockstep. I like Kerryon Johnson a lot. I don't think I'm out of lockstep. I don't think there is one. Yeah, I mean, Lindora says, LOL, it's Joe Mixon. It might be. Although, again, it's sad not to be on an island with Joe Mixon because I felt like it was a good island to be on. Dane says, we don't draft based on situation, but could you expand a bit on why don't you take into account at all? I'm glad to answer the question. Of course, we all have situation in our mind when we're thinking about the players. Of course we do, right? Obviously. Hey, by the way, everybody like this video. Right now, like it. While you're all here, just make sure you like it. I appreciate it. So of course, we all have situation in mind. And it's really impossible to line up your draft board and say, nope, sorry, this is the most talented list of players, and I'm not thinking about the teams they're on it on. Well, that's silly, right? James Conner, not one of the 15 most talented running backs, but he's going to be in my top 15 and your top 15, everybody's top 15, because we know really good offensive line, good history of, yada, yada, yada. I think the reason I shorthand it to we don't draft based on situation is to just try and reduce the importance of it from so much, because I mean, this all stems back like 10 years. This stems back to ESPN days when I would have pitched battles with people over players, and the first thing out of everybody's mouth was, well, don't you understand that they're going to throw it this number of times? Don't you understand there is nobody else in the depth chart? Don't you understand they never throw it to running backs? Don't you understand all the situational arguments? To me, I always want the quality of the player to be as primary as I possibly can make it in any given analytical situation. I want it as much as possible, but it's not possible to do it entirely. So I am evaluating Mark Ingram and saying, I really like that offense from Mark Ingram. And I like Mark Ingram too. It's the same offense that Alex Collins had last year, and I hated Alex Collins last year because Alex Collins can't play. I think Mark Ingram's really good, and so you're right. It's 100% fair. Every time somebody calls me on the carpet and says, "Hey, dude, you're talking about a situation. I thought we were supposed to." Of course, that's fair, but really, what I'm like trying to bend the other way almost, because it feels like the industry is all about, well, let me tell you exactly how many targets a running back can expect when Duke Johnson goes to Houston, because the last 3 years they haven't thrown to the running backs. Last 3 years they haven't had Duke Johnson. It's kind of what he does. They're going to throw to him. I can't guarantee it's as much as they did in Cleveland, but it's going to be more than they threw to Lamar Miller last year. That's sort of the feeling. Okay, scrolling back again. Scrolling like a boomer. I'm telling you, it's not my boomerness. I swear. It's not my boomerness. Let's see. Okay, Donnie says, any changes in your... I'm going to have a drink of water. Any changes in your methodology or approach due to your misses last year? I mean, misses? What are you, crazy? Of course, everybody has misses every year. I actually thought I had last year was the best year I've ever had doing this, in terms of calls where I was alone. It was a really good year. Le'Veon Bell was leaving him number 1 into the season. That's inexcusable. Mahomes, sticking with Mahomes is like QB 6 or 7 in like week 8 or something. Inexcusable. I wouldn't say the method, if there's I am more willing as we get further into August to believe Zeke Elliott and Melvin Gordon. So there's maybe a methodology change. But no, I accept that there's always the fallacy in my process is the limitations of this. I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to see things I thought I saw and not see things that were there. And so I don't think that I would say that there's been any sort of sea change. I'm more willing to believe the holdout guys, though. That is for sure. I only got 94 likes here, and there's like 239 people. Can you guys all please hit the like button? I would really appreciate that. I mean, I'm sitting here, right? I'm sitting here. Let's see. Come on. Where are you all? Two quarterback league auction draft. Keep Lamar Jackson for 6 or Luck for 43. Hashtag fantasy cheat code. I'm fine keeping Jackson in that sort of, because you could probably get Luck again for 43. I'm fine with that. In a 2 quarterback league, more so, right? Todd says, what's been your biggest surprise, film-wise, good or bad, this year so far? Dallas Goedert. Dallas Goedert can play. I know he just got hurt, so we're not going to see him the rest of the preseason. I wish he was on a different team, but that's the one that really stands out as like, wow, I was not appreciating him in the moment. I was not fully appreciating that he can really play. Leo says, I love the FDLU from last year. Will you be doing more with Brett this year? He was just on the podcast this week, so I hope you listen to that. He's great, and I'll keep having him on the podcast. It feels like a college course that we taught, and it's like if we were to teach it again, we'd sort of just give the same lesson. It would be the same lesson plan. We fired all the bullets, as it were. Terrible metaphor, sorry. We sort of said everything that we do. We didn't hold anything back. So I feel like what we did last summer sort of stands, but it's not new content. I get that. So there isn't any plan right now. Quan says, Singletary about to ball out. Maybe. It's interesting. Devin Singletary, analytics people hate him. Analytics people hate Devin Singletary, and you know why? Because he didn't test well. His metrics don't look good, right? He didn't look quick. He didn't look fast. He had a bad combine. And yet you watch him play, and you go, I don't know. He looks pretty quick to me. I don't know how he tested unquick. So I don't think he's LaShawn McCoy. I think people are saying he's the next LaShawn McCoy are wrong. But I think he might be the next Deion Lewis, which would be pretty good. Maybe not a total full-time back forever, but like a pretty good player. Benito, in a full PPR format, who are you taking at 4, assuming Saquon, Kamara, and McCaffrey are off the board? So I have ranks at harrisfootball.com. For me, it would be Hopkins. But I think it's arguable to take Julio. It's arguable to take Beckham. Frankly, it's arguable to tip Bell, but if you go to harrisfootball.com, you'll see my updated ranks, and in PPR at 4, I have Hopkins. Doug says favorite rookie this year. I think it's Josh Jacobs, the Raiders running back. We don't know a ton yet, but I liked him the best coming out of college. Quan says, how did you do in your leagues last season? I won a couple of ones that didn't matter that much to me, and the ones that mattered, I had the heartbreak in La Liga Lebowski that we talked about a lot on the podcast, Stupid Andy Barons, and Large was sort of, I made the playoffs, but it wasn't great. Tom says, biggest mover up or down in the Almanac update. I mean, N'Keal Harry goes down because I think the assumption that he was going to just go right in and be Josh Gordon feels like, again, when these teams can't stop the negative stuff from leaking out, that's when I pay attention much more than, oh my God, I can't believe how great Maurice Harris is. Remember when Maurice Harris was the talk of Patriots camp, and then now it's all Jacoby Myers? Yeah. But N'Keal Harry going down. Scott says, Matt Breida thoughts. So Jerick McKinnon, also a huge loser. Not in his personality. I'm sure he's very nice, but 152 likes now. That's not 248. Everybody who hasn't liked it, come on, you must like it, right? You're still here. Yeah, I mean, Jerick McKinnon's knee being in pain after a year after surgery and needing platelet treatments, and I just don't think, I think Jerick McKinnon is now very, very late round flyer material, and I think that just helps Breida and Coleman just because McKinnon is a pretty good player, about the same kind of player as those other two guys, and therefore having one fewer, of course, the situation matters, right? It does. You can't ignore the idea that McKinnon might not be ready, so that helps Breida. I think Tevin Coleman is being overrated according to the ADP that's been revealed to me on the podcast. I would not be taking Tevin Coleman as ADP. I don't think he's good. I think Matt Breida is better as a runner. His problem is he's little and he gets hurt, but I have Coleman and Breida about side by side in standard ranks. Coleman a little bit higher in PPR, but I think the better value is Breida. Seth says, whoa, what a surprise. Didn't you know doing this today? Made my day. Thanks, Seth. Luke says, are Gore and McCoy just too old? Happy Gilmore too old? Should Devin Singletary move up in the ranks? I talked about Singletary. I don't think you want any of them. I have McCoy the highest. I didn't think McCoy last year was completely cooked. I thought, I mentioned in the Almanac several plays where it felt to me obvious that he still had the lateral agility, not as much of it, but he can still make moves. It's probably a mishmash, right? And maybe it goes towards Singletary later in the year, but it's just tough to say I'm going to be starting right away. Let's see. Eileen says, is the possum around? Curious his thoughts about his favorite yacht model in the market. Let's see. Is there's Los Angeles. There's Los Angeles out there. Is the possum? Where is the possum? There's the microphone. I do the podcast right there. This is my living room aboard the yacht. I don't see him. He's around here somewhere, but I don't see him. But yeah. No. But the answer is no. I don't see the possum. Let's see. I lost where I was. Okay, Bryant, if D.D. Westbrook is on the Rams, is he Cooper Kupp? I mean, they're very different players, but could his value be that high? Sure, it could. It could. I mean, it's interesting because Kupp is a little more Eric Decker-y out of the slot, and sort of maybe like a slower Eric Decker. But and Westbrook, I wish he'd play outside more. You know, I feel like they've kind of decided he's a slot receiver. I always thought maybe he could be more than that. But would he be ranked as a top 20 receiver? Very well could be. Seth says, favorite movie so far this year? It's been a bit of a down year for me so far. Looking forward to The Farewell. I haven't seen The Farewell. I'd say High Life. I really liked High Life. That was good. I liked Under the Silver Lake. Those are two weird movies that I'm recommending, but I like those. Those are probably my two favorite right now. Chris says, would love it if you do more off Facebook and Instagram. Happy to support you, not Zuckerberg. Okay. Well, there's a YouTube channel. I'm doing it every day, so please watch these videos. Benito, where are you drafting Zeke at the end of August if there's no new developments? Probably lower. I don't know. I haven't figured it all out yet, to be honest. I'm sort of like just trying to hang on to the rope as it drags me through these days, so maybe lower. Mahomes, 6 point per touchdown, 12-teamer. What's the earliest you suggest drafting him? You know, I don't think 6 point per touchdown for quarterbacks changes my ranks. I don't technically have them, but I just don't think it changes them because it feels like the rising tide that lifts all boats. I've been saying that for years. I mean, okay, if he throws 50 touchdowns again, all right, well then he deserves to go higher, but he's not gonna. He's gonna throw 38 because that's just how it goes, right? It's just that's how you usually follow up elite touchdown seasons. It's just the way it works. So I don't think I move him, to be honest. I think he probably stays right where he is. William says, keeper question: Barkley at 11th overall or Chubb in round 9 standard scoring can keep for a max of 2 years. I mean, I prefer Barkley, obviously. I think I'd probably take Barkley, but I mean, you're wanting me to say it's close. I want Barkley. Jesse says, how are you, Jesse? Auction Keeper League, $200 budget. Devontae Adams for 30, Nick Chubb for 15, Ertz for 12. It's probably Adams or Chubb for me. Maybe Chubb, as long as you can, you'll have enough money to go get Adams if you want him. Josh says, in all caps, Harris, why are you in my living room right now? I am. Eileen says, can Curtis Samuel become the better option in Carolina over DJ Moore? Samuel has a lot of hype right now. It's interesting. I've been hyping him a little bit myself on the show, and I kind of am not as aware of what the general sort of zeitgeist is about a player. I don't think Samuel is as good a player as DJ Moore. So I think Samuel is fine. I think he's good. I don't think he's going to dominate the way I think DJ Moore eventually will dominate. Scott says, Kenyon Drake thoughts. I mean, it's like Kalen Ballage was a superstar because we had nothing else to talk about for a day, and now people are like, oh, Kenyon Drake having a really nice camp. Look, my thoughts are that I probably don't want him as an RB2, but as an RB3, I think I could still see my way. If there's no Zeke on news by Friday, would you take him at pick 4 overall? I mean, I can't, the Zeke and the Gordon thing, it's really hard for me to offer unilateral advice. Would I do it? Yes. But I'm always the one who's like, I'm cool taking the risk, but I recognize it could blow up in my face. I was still taking Le'Veon Bell last year. It was wrong. It was wrong. But there have been other times in other years where guys got pushed way down, and I would take the bait, and it always felt like I won that bet, and last year I lost it with Le'Veon for sure. Nick says, I'm picking 5 in a keeper league using large keeper rules. Should I keep Bell for a first or Hill in the 3rd? I guess I'll say Hill's a little bit better value. Obviously, the Tyreek Hill thing is just gross, and I wish he was suspended, and then we could all sort of feel like he paid his dues. And I guess I go Hill, and then maybe try to draft Bell, but maybe you can't get him. I don't know. Kieran says, what's the earliest you take Tony Pollard? Yeah, the Tony Pollard thing is I think it's just Jarrah. It's just Jarrah running his yam. I don't think Tony Pollard is at all capable of being an NFL starting running back. He wasn't the starting running back at Memphis. He was the gadget player. He was a wildcat quarterback. He's not a run. He's little. He's quick. He's Tavon Austin is what he is. So I like Tony Pollard. I think he's a good player to have on your team. I don't think he's a starting running back. Evan, thoughts on pairing a safe pick and a higher variance pick in the 1st and the 2nd round if you're picking at the turn, maybe Devontae and Antonio Brown? Sure. I definitely think it's viable to say, I feel like I really shot the moon on this one. I'm nervous about it. Let me get something a little easier to go down. I also think it can be fine to say, oh, well, I took Zeke Elliott, so I might as well go for broke here and just take all risky guys, because if it works out, I've got a dominating team. I get that, too. Mr. Justin Poland. Sorry, Justin, I couldn't read the username. Thoughts on Nick Chubb going early 2nd round? I have him in PPR. I have him 24. In Standard, I have him, these are the new ranks, 19, so I'm not outraged. Not outraged by it. But I have him a little bit lower than that, I guess. Evan says, I'm watching some Gurley film right now, and I was kind of shocked that his lateral movement isn't super great. He's more of a power back. Is that something you see? Yeah, he is not a super quick lateral runner. That is true. He's not quite Saquon Barkley. He's not quite Zeke Elliott in that regard. I'm going to refer to my own almanac, which I'm going to mention again here in a second, DraftKings related wise. But the grade, I give everybody a film grade in the almanac on all of these attributes, all these qualities. And the grade I give Todd Gurley for elusiveness is B+. I give him speed B and elusiveness B+. Power A, receiving B+. The power, he is more of a power back than not. That is true, for sure. It's like if Dalvin Cook weighed about 20 pounds more. Something like that. Okay, I lost my place. So Almanac-wise, let me mention Almanac stuff. So the Almanac is, whatever, 240 pages. It's a PDF that I wrote all summer. It's got a profile of every player that you need to know, and I spent a lot of time working on it, and it costs $17, except unless you want to open a new account. It has to be a new account at DraftKings. I think the minimum deposit there is $5, and then they will send you, within 24 hours, they'll send you the Almanac. So, or we send you, or somebody sends you the Almanac. So there's a description to this show. If you click the link that's in the description of this show, that will take you to a DraftKings site where you can start a new account, put in $5. Within 24 hours, you'll get this $17 Almanac thing for $5, right? It's pretty good. And so yeah, and plus then you have a DraftKings account, and when we talk about DraftKings on the show, you can play along with us, because we always have like a DraftKings group that's just Harris Football listeners, just podcast listeners. Like 1,000 people will play per week-ish, and we have fun, play against me. It's pretty fun. All right, Christian says, picking between Madison and Thompson for Dynasty. Darwin Thompson. So my rookie ranks are on the website. I'm pretty sure I have Madison higher, but let me look. Isn't this fun to watch a YouTube video where a guy is looking at a website? I just don't remember my ranks like letter by letter off the top of my head. I have Madison ahead of Thompson. Madison 14, Thompson 24. Azul says, thoughts on Josh Jacobs at his current ADP? I don't know his ADP. I'm sorry about that. CS says, Dynasty, Damian Williams for Christian Kirk and the number 9 rookie pick. Sure. I'm fine with that. I'm fine doing that. The number 9 rookie pick doesn't really feel like it's worth a mint. But if I'm just going to judge in a Dynasty, Kirk or Damian Williams, I probably like Kirk. So I think I'd probably do that. Samuel says, give me a sneak peek. Give me one flag player. Samuel, if I had it, I would. I haven't done it yet. Look at the ADP, and then I wind up making the flag choices. Lindora says, Nick Chubb for $1 or Barkley for 56. I'm fine if you do Chubb. Go pay for Barkley. TJ says, thoughts on Nick Chubb in the first round? Well, I just gave the answer for the second round, so obviously. Ike says, any chance you release the new Almanac tonight and got a long flight tonight? Would love to have some reading material. I'm probably going to release it before I go to sleep West Coast time. So that'll probably be, like 10 or 11 West Coast time. That's about when it will be out. John says, will your rookie Dynasty rankings change much between now and August 24th? What would make that happen? So I did make a few changes today, John, where I moved up Keyshawn Johnson. I moved up Miles Boykin. I moved down DK Metcalf. No, not DK Metcalf. N'Keal Harry. I moved down Andy Isabella a little bit. I mean, what can happen is what can happen with all ranks. I try to stick to them, but, you can get different feelings. Ink says, have you watched Kyler Murray throw the ball? It's so pretty. Please continue to talk about how things can go bad for him. Okay. Lucas says, who is the Colts' second receiving option by year's end? I mean, right now I'm saying Devin Funchess. Dathobo dude says, do you like Fournette this year if he can stay healthy? I think like is the right word. I'm fine with him. I just think he might be a bit of a knucklehead, and I'm not sure he's great. I think he's Derrick Henry-esque. So high upside week by week, but low downside. Christy, I thought on Superflex with 3 flex, any position including quarterbacks. My thought is I love it. My thought is Superflex is the wave of the future. We need to make quarterbacks more scarce. It's ridiculous that we can wait on quarterbacks and draft our starter in the 11th round. It's not realistic. It's the most important position in the NFL. What are we doing? Not making it important in fantasy. So I love it. And I actually have Superflex ranks in the Almanac. I don't put them online, but they're a little bonus for Almanac people. I don't think any quarterback is a first round. I have Mahomes in the second. I have like Rodgers, Watson, Luck in the third. I'm going to take quarterbacks in that point. Patrick says, lots of hype around Mark Andrews. The next Kittle is what I've seen. What does this film look like? That's not what I saw. Maybe he has abilities that weren't manifesting as a result of Lamar Jackson being the quarterback. But I didn't see the next Kittle. We'll see. Maybe I'm wrong. There is a lot of hype, it sounds like. I feel like it's a split job. I think Hayden Hurst is pretty good, too. Let's see. Doug says, keep up the good work. Your podcast is the gold standard for fantasy football. Thanks, Doug. Joseph says, what do you think Duke Johnson's ceiling is, assuming a season-long split backfield? Again, I'm just going to refer to my own almanac. So something else I do in the almanac is I give a ranks range, best case, worst case. So for Duke Johnson, let's see. I've got him in a standard league. Let's see. I have Lamar Miller, 31, Duke Johnson, 39, and I gave his rank range 22 to 36 in a standard. Let's see. Digital Hunter says, there needs to be a nautical-themed mural behind me. I know, there's no bookcase in this place, and clearly I don't have a lot of stuff on the walls in the yacht. James says, full PPR, which is more of an advantage in the flex spot, running back, tight end, or wide receiver? Well, the answer is, there is no answer. The answer is, it depends on the players. I'm never going to draft based on position. It's always going to be based on which players. Keep 2 says, made to last. Josh Allen at quarterback, Justin Jackson, or Dante Pettis, Tyler Boyd. I would say, it's hard to just say unilaterally. I don't know what else is going to be kept in your league, but my answer would probably be Pettis and Boyd, or Pettis and Jackson. You could probably do fine with Allen, with a different quarterback. Drew says, is Kamara at 2 a good pick? I mean, if Zeke Elliott's going to hold out, that's where I'm going to have Kamara, so I'm okay with it. Jarrett says, the 6 point per passing, does it change the way you would draft, just in case you didn't see it earlier? For me, no, it doesn't change it. Anthony, I just started reading Tulsa. It's a great read. Who is the most electric rookie this year? Thank you, Anthony. Electric. I want to say Hollywood Brown, Marquise Brown in Baltimore, but he's only just started practicing. Electricity might be not something I necessarily associate with Josh Jacobs. Maybe it's Miles Sanders. But I think Jacobs does other things better than Sanders. James says, it's the same question, I think, James. Oh, no. What is more of an advantage for a flex spot if most pass-catching running backs are gone, or can you talk about it? So it's a kind of continuation. It's hard for me to say. The answer is, if there's a non-pass-catching running back who's next on my board, I'm okay. He's who I'll take. He's there for a reason. But for sure, the pass catchers are higher on my board. So it might be apt that I wind up having receivers above him on my particular board. Then Adrian Peterson isn't as valuable in a PPR as he is in a standard. Maybe not that valuable in a standard, but Jamal Williams, Carlos Hyde, right? So on my board, they're going to be a little bit lower. You can find my board at harrisfootball.com. But I feel like it's going to come down to which players we're talking about. Bryant says, when and why did everyone decide DeAndre Hopkins is the best receiver in the league and Antonio Brown is washed up? Yeah. I mean, I did lower Brown. For those late coming, actually, let me tweet that I'm doing this, just, so we get new, fresh blood if we need it. Hold on. Is Noah Fant the next Kittle, says Drew? Not this year. I am currently chatting live with some lovely humans on the YouTube. YouTube.com/Harris Football. Okay. Yeah, the whole washed up thing for Antonio Brown is just, that's because they look for something to talk about. They hear someone say a thing and then they do the other thing. When last we saw Antonio Brown play, he was the best receiver in the NFL. Has that changed because he wore a fur coat or froze his feet? I don't think so. He'll be there with the helmet. All of this is nonsense. People like a story. He likes a story, right? But I admit, I lowered him. I lowered him because I'm scared I might reignite him again as the month goes on. I lowered him to 6. He's still fine. Connor says, who are your most favored bruising type of runners? I love those types, and it's hard for me to not be really high on Jamal Williams and Chris Carson. Yeah, I I'm never going to like those guys as much as I like the guys who can move laterally. But sure, someone like Carson, not so much Jamal Williams. I haven't seen it from Jamal. Carson, Jordan Howard, Peyton Barber. These are try-hard guys. It's hard not to love try-hard guys. And so the dudes who just sort of lay it all on the line, they don't have a lot of moves. They're going to take a million hits. They're going to get up. They're going to dish it out. They're going to do it again. There's a lot to admire about the courage that is required. I mean, it's easier to be Saquon Barkley. It's easier if you have Saquon Barkley skilled. Then I'd rather be Saquon because fewer people touch you. But yeah, for fantasy, it's for the NFL, generally speaking, that's not the way the league is sort of headed. But there's a place for them. Jordan Howard's been really valuable for fantasy. He might do it again. Bro Joe. Any running backs in auctions you find yourself taking a lot because of the market price and you just believe in them? I'm going to be honest. I don't think I've done an auction yet. I think I have several coming up. I haven't done a single auction. I've done 15 expert mock drafts, but the auctions take too long. So like when Roto World wants to do content, they're like, Harris, will you be in this thing? And we're just going to make it a draft because we all don't have 4 hours. So that honest answer is I don't have an answer for you yet. Sean says, how does your keeper league strategy differ from your redraft leagues? Are there positions you prefer to attack in one format over the other? So I can say that my auction ranks are going to be a little heavier on the young players and a little heavier on a little less pejorative for people that I think are good but are in bad, sort of loveless marriages or hurt or something like that. I don't think positionally I really changed my mind too much. And I also think in a keeper, if you're really keeping a lot of players, where everybody's focused on only the youngest players, I think there's value in acquiring the older ones. I'll take Larry Fitzgerald this year, sure. He'll retire next year, and I'll be out of luck. But if I think he's going to have a good year, I'll take him. So I guess those are probably the ways. Lance says, besides Edelman, who's the best footy pajama receiver in 2019? James White. That was a cheat. I'm not gonna do that to you. I truly don't know. I don't have any of them. Josh Gordon. I have Josh Gordon ranked the highest of them, and he might not even play. The answer is I truly don't know. Rowan says, are you on Top Chat or Live Chat? I don't know. I don't know what the difference is, because I'm a boomer, but I'm not a boomer. I'm Gen X. What are your feelings on Josh Jacobs and David Montgomery? I think I gave them earlier. I like them. I know. I realize like a half an hour behind on your questions. Let's see. Where's the like button? Montgomery, redraft. I already done did it. What redraft? Exit the chat to see the like button. Smash the like button. Yeah, I'm behind. I'm gonna try to go faster because it's obvious you're all just sitting around and I'm just running my yam. Nelson says top 5 rookies for Dynasty in 2019. I believed, if I can do it off the top of my head, it's Josh Jacobs, it's David Montgomery, it's Miles Sanders, it's Kyler Murray, and it's DK Metcalf. Brandon says, how do you feel about strategy about taking Damian Williams, Carlos Hyde, and maybe even Darwin Thompson to guarantee securing yourself a top 10 back? I mean, I don't hate it. You're obviously using a fair amount of draft capital, but it's not a ton. I don't hate it. The nightmare is that it never works out being one guy, right? If it's a great value with the 3 of them, but they all are participating, that wouldn't be as good. Let's see. Flurbus, keeper, superflex. Mahomes in the 4th, Kittle in the 8th. I'd say Mahomes, but it's a good question. Let's see. Can you elaborate on Jordan Reed? Do you think he's in a good situation? I don't think Washington has a good situation, and I don't want Jordan Reed because I just assume that his toe will explode. Marlon Mack or Aaron Jones for $17? Probably Aaron Jones. I don't feel super strongly about it. I think that's right? Let me make sure that that's how I have him. Oh no, I have Marlon Mack higher in a PPR. Yeah, Marlon Mack, like one spot higher in a PPR. See, I don't know my own ranks. Let's see. 10-team league, we replace kicker for 1 IDP. Would you still suggest to draft the IDP with the last pick? I would. IDP is basically like kicker. I would. I like it, but in the end, they're very, very, very replaceable. All right. I lost where I was on the scroll. Dang it. Let's see. Gotcha. Can you have a guest on the show who disagrees with your film assessment on a player and discuss? Would be helpful to understand how film might look different depending on what you're looking for. I mean, if you can find me lots and lots of people who watch film, that'd be great. It's hard job. Brett Coleman and I don't always agree, that's for sure. Michael says, does Andre Ellington have any appeal in Tampa Bay? No, I don't believe it. I don't think he's good enough. Wesley, I don't think you have enough on your plate. When will you give us your IDP ranks? Yeah, it's not going to happen. Alan says, are you more generally willing to accept risks in your ranks than most? For example, Jamal Charles coming off his ACL till Belia. I think so. I think for proven players, that's probably fair characterization. Noah Fant and Jimmy Graham, safe to take as my tight ends. I wouldn't use the word safe. Which position do you find hardest and easiest to evaluate? I don't think positionally. I think it's just rookies. I just think it's college film. I'm not good at it. I'm not terrible at it, I guess, but it's not what I do. James says, how are your upstairs neighbors? The piano is, I moved. I changed yachts, as it were. So the upstairs neighbor here are great. That's a big yacht. I can't even see the water. I know. Wow, we're only to the point where I showed you Los Angeles. How do you feel about a strategy you take? Oh, we already got that one. Metrics hounds belittle film grinding as subjective. I think it's the eye of the beholder, and you have a great eye for talent. What say you about the film grinder criticism? My thing about metrics people is I think they're the ones taking the easy way out. How hard is it to make a spreadsheet? I can make one right now for you if you want, Mr. Metrics person. I don't think it's very hard. I think it's pretty easy. They get to have dinner with their families. Probably there's room for both. It is subjective, but so is anything that you put into a spreadsheet. And in the end, I think what gets borne out is that people who look at metrics pick out Keelan Cole and Alex Collins, and I don't know of too many metrics only type calls that have been like league winners. I just don't. Now that's partly me probably being uneducated. I think I would love to be able to use a batting average on balls in play. I would love to be able to find the killer stat that would reveal a player who's just been unlucky. It doesn't exist in football, and the people who say it does. In the end, what metrics in football means is I just sat down and I put my finger up my butt and decided that guy's going to get 58% of the targets. And I'm sorry, that's not anymore. Metric stuff just as subjective, just easier. All right. Inc says, when are we getting this year's frag players? Friday, cousin Josh, Friday. Love Goddard from Philly. Don't you see a way his talent gets the ball and he's top 10 tight end? No. I wish. I love him too. Tour of the Yacht, definitely the highlight of this one, says Spencer. Do you think the injury risk of any quarterback is another reason to pass on Mahomes or Watson, meaning if Rivers gets hurt, it only costs you a 10th or 11th as opposed to a 2nd or a 3rd? Yeah, but you could say that the running back that you're going to take in the 2nd has a better chance of getting hurt. If anything, you'd say take the safer position. Fewer quarterbacks get hurt than running backs. I think it's not necessarily the argument I'm making, but you could make that argument. Daniel says, where do you start to feel nervous about wide receiver? Why do you love Kupp so much? Again, I don't know that I love Kupp so much just because I'm not looking at ADP just yet. Wide receiver gets gnarly around, 18, 19, 20 is probably where it starts to get gross. Moncrief versus Washington versus McDonald. I'm not a big James Washington guy, so I prefer Moncrief. And then McDonald is just a tight end to me. I wouldn't feel like I needed to reach for him. I have him like 10 or something like that. Did DK Metcalf look slow to you in the preseason game? Well, I would have had to have watched the preseason game. It is a waste of time. Standard League, 6th pick, David Johnson or Hopkins or Adams. I would refer you to the website, harrisfootball.com. I've got combined ranks on there. Take a look. Let's see, Chris, no one has ever thrown 50 in what was essentially his rookie season for Mahomes. We don't have precedent for this guy. If he throws 50, I will do another YouTube live and I will tell you I was wrong that he threw 50. He's not throwing 50. It's just not what's going to happen. Who has the worst downside risk? Gurley, Zeke, Gordon, or Fournette? Can you at least draw a porthole on the wall to maintain yacht pretense? Hey, this is just a big yacht. It's very tall yacht. Bigger downside risk. Probably Gurley, right? Because we're going to know the deal with Zeke and Gordon if they're playing. I mean, to drafting them, I guess Zeke. Right now, because you have to take him the highest. But, yeah. Josh says, where's cousin Josh? I believe he's in New York. I took Le'Veon Bell over number 1 over last year. Sad. Have him 12th this year. If he's there, is it cowardly to crawl back to him? No, I think you should take him. Once you get into the less than mediocre wide receivers, do you start weighing your ranks more toward upside? I would rather draft a wide receiver 5 with wide receiver 3 upside than a sure thing wide receiver 4. I mean, the problem is, of course, that they're all the same. There's no difference. It's melancholy and the infinite wide receiver 3 sadness, right? There isn't such a thing as a player that I know is a wide receiver 4, as opposed to one that I know has the upside to be a wide receiver 3. The problem is that they're all kind of the same. Mohamed Sanu seems like he's just a kind of a boring safe guy, but he's got a couple of games out there where he's going to be a top 10 receiver probably, because he'll score a touchdown. It's kind of the way it works. But I take your meaning. I don't mind shooting for upside when you're later. That's fine too. Daniel says, I really enjoyed collaboration with Brett last year. Will eventually repeat. Maybe. Who plays the slot in Miami? Thoughts on Miami's wide receivers with Fitzmagic? I mean, I don't want any of them. Kenny Stills would be the one I would draft first, but I don't want any of them. Let's see. Love the channel. Can you talk about your criteria that you use for defense ranks? Yes. I'm mostly just trying to pick the teams that I think have the best defenses. Honestly, my fantasy defense ranks are pretty close to my ranks in the order in which I think the defenses are good, because fantasy points from defenses are pretty random, which is why we're waiting to the very, very, very end of drafts to draft defenses, because sacks are, you can have a very good defense and not be elite in sacks, and defensive touchdowns, you can easily not score by. I mean, the Bears' defense in the second half of last year wasn't very good because they had the temerity not to start not scoring defenses, just not scoring touchdowns, and they were still really good. So I'm mostly just judging how good I think the defense is. PPR, would you rather keep Chubb for a second or Zeke for a first? I mean, I'd rather keep Zeke, but obviously that's a huge risk. Since defenses don't appear in your top 200, does that mean that a defense, even a top 5 by your rankings, doesn't need to be drafted? No, it just means that I'm telling you, take them in the last round, second to last round, whatever, so I don't feel the need to put them in there. I want to show you more players because I don't want you to take a defense until the very end. David Montgomery is going to be trucking linebackers in 2019. Could be. Who will produce out of Washington's wide receivers? Paul Richardson, Trey Quinn. I mean, now we're talking about Terry McLaurin, with Josh Doxson is there. The answer is I don't want any of them. I don't even want to touch any of them in a draft. They're all waiver ads as far as I'm concerned. I still have Doxson rated the highest, but I don't want him. Keeper question. Kittle in the 7th or Ballage in the 12th? Kittle. Not Ballage. Today's 8-11, says Scrooston. Yes, it is. David, I like you to check your ranks to decide if you were outraged. That's very common. Did the Duke Johnson trade change your PPR outlook on Chubb? It didn't. I wasn't worried about Chubb from that perspective. I said this in the show, the only worry I have about Chubb is entirely Kareem Hunt in the second half of the year. I was never concerned. Waiting on tight end in Superflex 12, man. Can you give me 2 names and what round to grab them in? I don't really have a George Kittle for this year. I don't have a guy that I know that I feel that strongly about. Goddard is the guy, but he just got Zach Ertz there. So you could try McDonald, you could try Trey Burton, you could try, Kyle Rudolph is kind of in that neighborhood for me. He's obviously not exciting, but he's just sort of easy. You can get your 606 and be happy with it. I don't have a great name. I mean, people are going to tell you Mark Andrews, maybe. I guess you could take the shot. I don't mind on the unknown as opposed to the known. Maybe Vance McDonald's the right one. Alejandro, Kerryon Johnson in the 5th or Damian Williams in the 8th? I mean, they're both good value. Just take the player you like better. I'd say take Kerryon. Or Devontae in the 4th. I'd take Kerryon. Patrick says, who do you trust to make the best casserole, Aaron Rodgers or Cam Newton? Casseroles require multiple elements and cohesion, just as the quarterback requires of their offense. That is a deep question. The answer to any question that involves Aaron Rodgers and Cam Newton, the answer is going to be Aaron Rodgers. Jay says, should I keep Robert Woods for a 5th or Evan Ingram for a 10th? It feels like I'm kind of agnostic there, maybe Woods, but you could probably draft him in the 5th anyway. Do you like Ronald Jones as a late-round flyer? I bumped him up a little bit, but I don't love him. Got a 10th pick and a 12th man. Who do you like? I like whoever is highest on your board, who's ever left on your board. So check out Harris Football and you'll see my ranks. You know, right now I'm at 199 likes for this video. Seems like we should be able to get to 200. I'm just saying. I'm not saying. I'm just saying. 10-team Superflex. You can only own 2 quarterbacks. Best draft strategy. Try to get 2 great QBs on the same bye and punt that week or stream all year. I think you don't even really need to stream, especially in a 10-teamer. You can, but you can also just plug in a really great other position player when your quarterback is on bye. Damian Williams plays all 16, top 5 running back in return. I'm going to say no, but maybe. Let's see. Nick says Superflex. Quarterback's very scarce. Jimmy G in the 18th, Cup in the 6th, Kittle in the 9th, or Pettis in the 18th. I mean, your league, you understand your league rules so much better than I do, so it's tough for me to say. I wouldn't particularly want to keep Garoppolo, but if you're telling me that he's an option, you can keep him. That's fine. Let's see. Benito says, this boomer called a live stream a show. Well, it's kind of a show. Dexter Williams, Jan says, Dexter Williams is better than Jamal Williams. Maybe. Haven't seen Dexter Williams play in a game that mattered yet, though. Suavador says, thoughts on N'Keal Harry? Seems like there's a lot of targets available in New England and a lack of wide receivers on the team. Yeah, but all we're told now is that he can't get on the field, and it's freaking Jacoby Myers and Maurice Harris. I'm not going to aggressively draft N'Keal Harry. Hien says, thoughts on D.D. Westbrook? I've always liked him. If you listen to the podcast, you know I like him. Slot receiver, mostly. I wish he would play on the outside more, but that's where they use him. Yeah, I think he's a good mid-round pick. Paul says, is there a stat you like or wish existed that actually tells you how good the player is? I mean, it would be great. It would be great if we had stats that told us how good players are. I would totally use it. When I covered baseball, I used all the numbers because they told you things. They were predictive. There's no predictive numbers in football. Sorry, guys. There just isn't. And all the people who tell you there are, I'll go on their show and I'll talk about that stat with them, and they'll go, yeah, good point. There's lots of exceptions, aren't there? And I go, well, then how is your stat any more less subjective than me watching film? Let's see. Merrick says, big question. Does the possum helmet meet league standards? That's a great question. I have to ask the designer. I'm not sure. JJ says, I love being a lovely human. Terrence says, you should use Salino and Barnes for this injury list. Gen X is turning 50 this year. Okay. Michael says, am I crazy for loving Mark Ingram? It's obvious I love him too, so we're crazy together. Let's see. Chase says, setting up a Dynasty League, likely going Superflex with 6 IDPs. Any other suggestions? Yeah, skip defense, skip kicker. I might even go more IDPs, because if you have like 9 or 10, there starts to be real scarcity. But I like it. I think you're on the right track. Philip Dorsett with no Josh Gordon. Is that a smart pick or late or off waivers? I think all of those Patriot receivers, to be honest, are more waiver guys now. We just don't know who it's going to be. I'm going to be fine once we know. If it seems like it's one guy, I'm going to be cool, but I just don't think we know who it is. Solution says, what's the one player you're trying to have in all your leagues this year? It isn't usually the way I approach it. I'm trying to have Saquon Barkley, but I don't usually get him if I don't pick first. So I don't usually have someone in mind where I say I got to make sure I'm getting that guy. But I admit there'll be definitely a pattern. I've gotten Mike Williams in like every mock draft I've done. I'm always in there with experts. And I'm like, guys, what do you know about Mike Williams that I don't? I like Mike Williams, I guess. I didn't think that I was out of step on him, but it seems like I get him a lot. Is Kamara, Juju, Thielen a smart first 3 picks? It can work, Drew. Lendoris, tight end is so gross. Help us, Harris, you're our only hope. Who should we target really late? I think I answered that one kind of, right? I'm probably just behind. Where am I? I lost my... Okay, there we go. Jarrett says, 6 points for passing TDs have changed the way you draft. No, I answered this one earlier. It really doesn't. Just in summary, I feel like the rising tide lifts all boats. I don't think that one person will throw 10 more touchdowns than everybody else this year, because it usually doesn't happen. Cesar, when are flag players coming out? Thursday and Friday of this week on the podcast. Flag players coming out. Let's see. Steven, favorite handcuffs this year? You know, it's a good question. I don't have a list for you, but we're going to do that topic on the show this week. I think on Thursday, we're going to do the handcuff talk. So tune in. Ryan says, does Jared Cook, said a bad word, does Jared Cook have a real shot at top 5 tight end? Sure, only because the position is kind of garbage. It's not where I would draft him, but I can see why you might think that. He had a good year last year. It's Drew Brees. The Saints haven't had great luck with tight ends lately. But yeah, I can see the world. I mean, I would tend to think more like 6 to 10. Michael says, do you have a helmet? And if so, is it league recalled? Well, if you've seen the Almanac, I've got a lot of helmets. Scott says, do you see any running back trades or moves? I don't know, Scott. I'm right there with you. I don't have inside sources about what trades are going to happen. Poops McGee, what rookie running back has the best stop foot, go foot? Maybe Justice Hill? I'm sort of just quickly, it's not a list that I already prepared in my mind, but like the real quick guys, feels like Justice Hill, feels like, probably Darrell Henderson. Henderson the Game King. Sean says, finally got my stubborn league to drop kickers. Next on my list is defense, but what's the best argument I can give to make it a super flex? You have a 14-team league, so there's already a little more quarterback scarcity, but the argument that seems to work when you want to change your league into a super flex is we all wait to the 7th round to take quarterback. That's stupid. Quarterback's really important. Wouldn't you like a rule that would cause there to be more different strategies where some people wait, but some people take early, and it create more interesting paths to being successful? And that's what Superflex does. So that would be my argument to say, like, let's get some scarcity in the position. Because once there's scarcity, that makes it fun because people then can take different tacks for draft strategy. Suavador projections on Anthony Miller. I don't do stat projections, but I can tell you I think he's good. I don't think he's great. I think he's a slot receiver. I think he probably deserves to be drafted in kind of the wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5, 40s and 50s kind of among receivers. Have you watched any film of the 2020 NFL Draft prospects? I haven't, Paul. Flag players coming out this week, indeed. Can you do a live mock draft in a Superflex league in the near future? No. Mock drafts are really, really exciting for people who are in them. I guess your point is, like, you don't want listeners in the mock draft. You just want me to. Mock drafts are just not good content. To me, mock drafts feel lazy as content. I'm sorry about that. I mean, for me, mock draft is like, I'm pretty much going to stick to my board in the first, 5-6 rounds. So, yeah, I'm probably not going to do that. Sorry, I didn't mean to give a flip answer. Chase, Superflex is a great way to drive up quarterback scarcity. Is there a way to do the same for tight end? I mean, no, because the problem with tight ends is that there's no good ones. The solution for tight ends eventually is going to be not to have a separate tight end position. Because if the league is going to stay 3 wide, I mean, I say this in the Almanac, but the number of tight endless plays was at an all-time high this past year. The number of routes run was at an all-time low for tight ends. The problem is just that the position is sort of being phased out of football, and Travis Kelce could just be drafted as a pass catcher, as a receiver. That might sort of get rid of the problem altogether. Let's see. Skinny says, 8-person standard, would you keep Hopkins in the 5th or Chubb in the 15th? With just Starball and no scarcity, I'd just keep Hopkins, because what the heck, you might as well. I'm okay with either one. Jack says, personal question, why'd you leave ESPN? I definitely value your input more than the stuff they got on there. Well, thank you. I mean, honestly, I left just because I'd been there 8 years. I was kind of done. There's no bad feeling. There's no feeling like, oh, what they do is somehow rah, 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 rah. It was basically I was doing the same thing year after year after year after year. Things were never really going to change for me there. And I think they knew it, and that's okay. And I certainly started to realize it, and that, so I kind of came to the realization. I mean, they offered me more money to stay. They really wanted me to stay, and I was at the end. I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I didn't really think that this thing would take off like it's taken off, but I just was sort of done because it felt like Groundhog Day. I wish it was like some really like political backstabbing. Oh, that person made me so mad. It honestly isn't. It's honestly nothing but good feelings. It's fine. Do you feel bad for ruining every other fantasy podcast? Oh, thank you. Thank you for that, A. Simmons. I appreciate it. Are there rookie running backs rated too high currently? Who comes to mind? So I don't really know ADP, right? I'm not looking at ADP yet. But I can just think about what people have said on the show. No, I mean, it's not so. So I will have a better answer for you after this week of shows where I'm going to dig into ADP and really talk about what I think. But nobody on the show has like kind of indicated to me, wow, you're so high or you're so low on Darrell Henderson or you're so low on. The problem is there's only 3 rookie running backs, right? There's Jacobs, Montgomery Sanders, Darrell Henderson's 4. You know, Matt's. I mean, maybe people are too high on Damian Harris. The truth is, I'm vamping. I don't know the answer to that. Santic says hello, and I say hello back. Troy says, saw Stephon Gilmore make a comment about Devontae Adams' elite release game. Any chance you could explain that or have a video showing that aspect of wide receiver play? That's a great question. I wonder, did we do a Film Don't Lie University on wide receiver release? We may not have. Maybe that's a topic for the future. Check out Film Don't Lie University. We probably touched on some of the qualities that Gilmore is talking about, but maybe we need to do something about just about release. Film Don't Lie University is a series of videos we did last summer. So look back on this channel to last summer, and you'll find 10 or 11 or 12 a series of how we watch film. Santic Extra says, say my name. I did it. Lance said, smash, smash, smash. Senor Meow added my like for the 200. Yeah, we're up to 233 on likes now. Thank you. Bethany says, are there players you would absolutely not take if they fall? That's a great question. And that's like a morality question, right? It's a Tyreek Hill, Kareem Hunt. You could say Joe Mixon. You could say Zeke Elliott. You could say a lot of people. Probably not. Probably, I'm so cynical that I'm to the point where I probably take Hill if he falls, but not so cynical that I have Hill exactly where I would have put him had all this not happened. I'm a hypocrite is the end. But the truth is, Bethany, it's a fantastic question, and other people who tell you that they do want to skip him, I think it's 100% legit. You want to root for a guy. I totally get it. I don't really want to root for him. I have to say, I have Tyreek Hill rated wide receiver 7, and I want him to flop. I can't help it. Not because of the anti-Chiefs. If the Chiefs go 16-0, I'd be happy if Tyreek Hill didn't do something. And we're humans. We have emotions. We all have different levels of where we think morality should be part of things, and different morality anyway, right? My morality isn't your morality, which is why I always try not to talk about that stuff as much as possible, because I don't want to impose my belief system on you. You have as much of a right to your belief system as I do to mine, as long as we're not hurting other people. So it's such a tough thing. It's a slippery slope to start caring about these people as human beings, because some of them aren't very good human beings, that's for sure. Solution says, quarterback always in the superflex slot. That's the way to go. I agree with that. Yeah. JM says, because of Aaron Rodgers' playoff schedule, should I consider Deshaun Watson before Aaron Rodgers? So I'm just always going to tell you, ignore schedules. You don't know. Cousin Josh always wants to talk schedules. I always yell at him for it. We don't know. We were dead wrong about who had good schedules last year. We were dead wrong about who had good schedules the year before, because we're always dead wrong about who has good schedules. The NFL changes way too much from year to year. Zhang says, it's my birthday today. I'm buying your almanac as a gift to myself. What's the code again for a free copy? So it's not a free copy. If you haven't opened a DraftKings account already, by the way, happy birthday, more importantly. But if you've never opened a DraftKings account, then there's a link that's in the description of this video, this live stream, as the kids say. And if you click on it, or copy and paste it, and you go over to DraftKings and you start a new account, you've never had one there before, deposit $5. Within 24 hours, they'll send you the almanac. So instead of $17, it's $5. The link is in it's like some balderization of DraftKings.co/Harris Football, but look in the link of the description. And the almanac is pretty good. I think you'll like it. I worked really hard on it, and I put another 20 hours in on it this weekend. Let's see. Let's see. JJ says, I was surprised not to hear Corey Davis on your post-hype sleeper list. Was there something on his film that made you change your tune? Great question. Mostly this is about being done with Marcus Mariota. I don't consider Davis to be a great sleeper. I think I have him 31 among receivers. I don't know what his ADP is, so maybe I'll look at ADP this week and maybe I'll decide, oh, better sleeper than I thought because it'll look like value. Corey Davis was mostly held hostage by the offense, but there are times out there where it's like, are you even playing, dude? Are you running hard routes? Are you trying? There's this thing that Kenny Golladay that did last year too, where too much disappearing, not enough ferocious route running that kind of demands the ball. Corey Davis needs to learn. They both need to learn a little DeAndre Hopkins. Wilma says, just open YouTube. Bummed there's no football to watch yet. This is a pleasant surprise. Hello. Lindora says, can you do a Bizarro podcast and name bad players? Then I can tell my players who to draft. I like it. Justin says, why is Kelsey so low? 27th overall. And then Justin's nice. So Justin didn't parenthetically add, you idiot. But I'm adding it in because I know it was intended. But Justin, you're nice, and you're too nice to have said that. So I just am not going to have a tight end in my first couple of rounds. I almost never do. I never had Gronk there. I would always have him third round. I just don't think the scarcity of the position warrants it. VBD, value-based drafting, really doesn't warrant it. We're pretty bad at picking the number one tight end from year to year. I think it's 6 out of the last 7 years. The consensus number one tight end has not finished number one. I just don't think Kelsey is that much better than the other guys at the position. So if somebody else wants to reach, I'm going to take a guy at a scarcer position. That is a philosophical thing. It's backed up by a little bit of math, but it is much more of a philosophical thing. So that's Kelsey has a where the positions fold into each other in the ranks. Just tight ends are not going to fold in very high. Let's see. Let's see. James says, word is Christian McCaffrey bulked up and added weight. This usually doesn't work out for running backs. Are you concerned? I mean, there's this running thing on the podcast about tiny-boned running backs, and me. At one time, I could bench more than Christian McCaffrey. He's obviously bulked up a lot more, and that was a few years ago. So I've aged it a little bit. I'm not letting that stuff factor in. I guess my concern with McCaffrey, and the reason I don't have him as a top 5 overall pick, is about his size and usage last year. I think he'll break if they use him like that. I don't think the publicity over weightlifting really factors in that much. Cheese McClarson says, you did a video with Coleman a while back about quarterback arm strength. Where would you rank Trubisky's arm strength on the league? Well, I don't have to guess because I've done the work. If you get the Almanac, you'll see my grades on all these players. And my grade for Trubisky, he vamped as I scrolled down in the quarterback ranks, is B. He has a B arm. Yeah, I mean, slightly above average, I would say. Lance says, thanks for all the good work you do for the fantasy community, Harris. Thank you, Lance. Matthew says, thoughts on Michael Gallup. My thoughts are, he was weirdly used considering he's not all that fast. He doesn't have the right last name for how not fast he is. Michael Gallup, get it? He was throwing the deep ball a lot last year. I don't think they're going to do that with Murray Cooper around. So my thoughts are he's a good player. He's rock solid number 2 on your NFL team. Rock solid, strong guy, good hands, good toe tapping, good physical player. Probably not a world beater. Probably not somebody who beats matchup coverage with a great corner. Sort of your second guy. Let's see. Love David Montgomery's upside. Yeah, Mark, I think he has upside for sure. Casey says, would you drop Geis, Breida, or Penny to stash Pollard? I wouldn't. I don't buy this Pollard stuff. I really don't. I think he's a gadget player more than he's a starting running back. Dylan says, my home league is switching to 2 quarterbacks, 10 teams. Should I put a cap on quarterbacks per team? Currently at 4. I thought we should switch to 3. I usually don't play in leagues where, if people want to waste lots and lots and lots of picks on quarterbacks, it almost never works. It's terrible strategy. I don't mind letting people hang themselves. I don't mind letting people make that mistake. I think if you think you're gonna be the one who takes 5 quarterbacks and then gets Saquon Barkley for one of them, you're wrong. You're not gonna. So I've never found the need, to be honest. Lance says Montgomery is the second coming of Matt Forte. I don't see it. That style of player, but maybe. Kyle says flag players, when do they come out? They come out Thursday and Friday on the podcast this week. Megan says, which of the rookie running backs plus Geist do you think is most likely to be a first-round pick next year? That's a very good question. Most likely. I'll say Josh Jacobs. But that doesn't necessarily mean I think it's likely. But I say most likely. He's the one I like best this year, and I have real concerns about Geist. So I guess I'll say Jacobs. Kieran, I know you don't look at ADP, but how do you feel that Tom Brady is QB 15? Is he flag player in 10 quarterback leagues? He's going in the 10th round. I've heard, believe me, I've heard from people that I have. Why are you so on Tom Brady? You're so stupid. People can get the full explanation in the Almanac. The back of the envelope explanation is that he was the MVP of the league. When was that? Oh yeah, 2 seasons ago, and that he wasn't bad last year. He was the QB2 off of boards, but I guess everybody's decided he's done. I don't know if he'll be a flag guy. Maybe. I tend to think not, because I just don't value quarterback highly enough. I don't care who I get late. If it winds up being Brady in the 14th round, I'm actually very good with that. But I don't know if I would necessarily waste a flag spot on him. Maybe I will, though. I'm going to see what it looks like. Who would you rather not have, Cam Newton or Aaron Rodgers? I would rather have Rodgers. Jarrett says you're the best. Rasmus says, when and why do you deviate from your rankings in a draft? When I use your rankings in a mock drafts, there's just never a tight end or a quarterback on top of the list. I do for sure. That's exactly right. I do. I'll get to a point reading the room as I'm going along where I'll go, this feels right. It feels like the moment where if I don't take a quarterback now, I'm going to have Joe Flacco. I don't want Joe Flacco, so I'm going to do it. And I'm going to bump him up a little bit. But I'll say it's usually not in the first half of the draft. I mean, it's usually not. It depends on who you're drafting with, right? And if you know for sure that everyone's going to take 2 quarterbacks and you haven't taken 1 yet, then you go, I don't want to get stuck. But if it's a league where I know that everyone's going to take 1 quarterback, they're just going to take it higher than I take it, then I'm just going to wait. I'm going to stick to the board. And same with tight end. The same logic would be for tight end. My feeling is, though, I absolutely will deviate for those if I feel like, the room is going crazy on quarterbacks, everyone's taking a backup, I need to figure it out. So I think I'm going to stop at 90 minutes. So I got 3 more minutes left. I'm going to bang through as many of these as I can. Give me a like if you haven't yet. I really appreciate that. Suavador, is this the Devontae Parker year breakout? I don't think so. Luke says, is Kelsey worth early second since the player pool is deeper as opposed to 12 or 14? I don't think so. Sleeper rookie wide receivers. I don't really think there is one. I mean, DK Metcalf is highest on my list, but I don't really care if I don't get any of them. Rookie wide receiver was bad luck last year, minus Traquan Smith's 1 big week. Yeah, it's a hard position to play, and it's not a good rookie wide receiver class. We know that. Colin says, thoughts on Devontae Freeman? I am pro as a running back too. He certainly has concerns. Injury concerns would be foremost among them, but he's been RB3 in his life, so I can see being excited to get him. Bone says, do you see more production out of Green Bay's backfield this year? I mean, it's probably about the same. If you're liking this Q&A, share and like, says Style. Agree. If you're loving this Q&A, share and like, please. Sean says, what do you name your own fantasy teams? They all have like long-standing nicknames. One of them, Short Street Beagles. I used to have Beagles. I used to live on Short Street. One of them is Dub Storm Johnson, because a character in one of my novels is named Dub Storm, and Storm Johnson used to be a player in the league. John says, did Field really believe in the Fantasy Underground? I think so, sure. Do you think Ingram has enough catch backing proficiency to not lose third down work to Justice Hill? I don't care if he does. It's fine. There's very few guys who don't lose some snaps. He'll come off the field for sure. He will definitely come off the field. Mark Ingram, Sony Michel, better fantasy season. I have Ingram higher. Yeet, the divorce documents, my guy. I don't know what that means. Gary says, which rookie running back is better? Josh Jacobs. When are you going to write another novel? I finished one. Yay. It's done. Next year it'll probably come out. Is Antonio Brown too toxic for the Raiders? No. Should I run away from drafting Antonio Brown? I don't think so. What's the furthest you'd let Melvin Gordon drop before you draft him? If I'm drafting right now, I wouldn't let him go past like the 3rd or 4th round, but I might have a later round for you in a couple of weeks. Let's see. Scott, how do you feel about Jay Ajayi? I ranked him. I have him like in the 80 to 100 range, but I have no idea what the deal is with the ACL. Antonio Brown stuff, farts and whistles. I think it's mostly farts and whistles. He's down to 6 for me. Buy the Almanac. It's easily worth. Yeah, thank you. It's either worth $50. I appreciate it. I thought it was a joke saying it cost too much, but thank you, JD. Will the DraftKings copy of the Almanac get the updated versions? They will indeed. They absolutely will. When you become the next J.K. Rowling, will you still cover fantasy football professionally? 100%, of course. Do you like the Ravens' offense as a whole this year? I'm excited to see what it looks like. I'm sort of in the middle on how effective it's going to be, but I'm excited to see, like, can they really run a college offense? It's fun. Jack in the Box. How many leagues do you personally play in every year? Money leagues. What's a good amount to manage if you're confident about yourself? I only care about 3 or 4. I'm in a bunch more. It's hard to set lineups for me. I like 3 to 4 that I care about and manage and make trades in. That's probably my max. And then all the others that I do for friends or in expert leagues or whatever. Nobody makes trades. Very few people do waivers. It's. I would not want to play for serious money, like more than $100 in any league other than those few. Alexander, which Almanac buying option supports you more, buying direct from you or through DraftKings? Honestly, it's all the same. Either one, it's great. I would appreciate either one. Chris, how much do you bench? I hear you. Lift. Right now I'm benching not 225s anymore. I used to bench 225s and I would do 12 probably. But those days are gone because I hurt my back and I was like, who am I trying to impress? So now it's like, 20 reps at 150, something like that. Is there a way to get other people in your draft more involved in trades? Ahmad asks. It's tough. It feels to me like you have to just be in the right league. It's tough to, make a bunch of offers, but if people don't accept them, if people just aren't into it, then I get it. You're sort of stuck. Matthew says, will the Huggies be sponsored by the diaper company this year? I know, naturally. It should. All right. This was 90 minutes. This was fun. Thank you very much. If you're interested in the Almanac, getting it for a minimum deposit of $5, there's that link in the description of this show. Once this is posted, it'll be in the show notes where you can go over to DraftKings. First-time account holder, first time you've had an account at DraftKings, they'll make a $5 deposit. I've been running my yap for 90 minutes, so I'm a little goofy. But that's a good way to get the Almanac. You'll get it within 24 hours. Otherwise, I'll be back on the podcast tomorrow. I'm going to have Ross Tucker. We're going to talk about offensive lines. I'm sure I'll talk about something else as well. I'll think of something. There's always something to talk about. And then this week on the show, we've got ADP talk. We've got flag players. We've got frag players. I think the guests include, rookie talk with Matt Waldman on Tuesday. That's going to be a blast. Wednesday is Jamie Eisenberg. And I'm not sure what we're talking about yet. I think I know what we're talking about. Thursday's going to have the handcuff talk. I'm not sure who that is. We'll figure it out. Awesome. Thank you very much. I will see you. We'll do this again soon, too. See you. Bye.